Welcome here, everyone. Good evening. Trust we're all doing good. Welcome. Let's give a few minutes and we get started. Few minutes for the latecomers. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Please confirm you can hear me. Can you guys hear me? All right. Thank you. Welcome here today. It's been a long time. Um, it's been a long time. I've not seen some of our faces. Let me see if I can turn on my camera. Am I visible? Can you guys see me? Because I can't see myself. So maybe because I'm sharing my screen. But I try to turn on my camera. I don't know if it's on or not. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I can't see myself. I was wondering if my camera is on. Yeah, good evening, everyone, and welcome here. So we are already a few minutes past, so we're going to start. Why, if others join, fine. I'll try and turn on the recording so that we can also keep a record of today's section. So yeah, today we'll be looking at a topic very, very special, and this is I just turned off my camera so we can focus. Yeah, this is the first section we're having since we're switching up our community to an academy where we will be doing more of hands-on activities. So yeah, we're getting started with cloud and DevOps. There are other niche that we would also be working with, but for this moment, we will be working more with cloud and DevOps. So how do we even get started? I have a simple task that I want us to start with. So I would like us to go to slido.com and enter this code so that we can start that up. Oh, recording. No recording. Okay. Yeah, so go to slido.com, enter the code, and let me know what you can see. I would also be starting it up on my side. Go to slido.com and enter the code that you can see. Let me bring that screen here. Oh, looks like I'm logged out. Okay. Let me log in. Have any of us joined? Have you been able to join? Can give me a thumbs up. Let me see that we're able to join. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start the Slido now. I can't see anyone on the Slido at the moment. 2318161. Okay, I can see one person. I can see two. I was expecting to see all the people that joined, but I just see people typing. Okay, go to slido.com if you've not. And I have just very small question for us, just for a starter. So we'll see how we're doing. If you're not able to join, you just have to go to slido.com on your browser and go straight to where it says enter code and enter that code. Slido.com. Okay, how many people are able to join? Just give me a thumbs up if you've been able to join. So the first thing you see on the slider says, what is your level with your DevOps journey in one word? So how can you describe your DevOps journey in one word? Beginner, intermediate, you've not started at all, an expert, you're strong, maybe you've started, but then you're growing strong, you're good, right? Or you're just looking, or any other word that comes to mind. These are what comes to my mind, right? Okay. I see someone say very beginner. He added very to the beginner. That's cool. Any other person? Okay. So I've seen 5 responses so far. Let me share that screen. So this is how we're going so far on Slido. 5 responses. Someone said not started. Someone said intermediate. I think we have more people for beginner. That's why it made it very bold. So if you're still typing, we're waiting for you before we go. Someone said they're exploring. Okay, let's go to the next. Or are there people still typing? So yeah, we have more of beginner. That's why it's the beginner field is very big. That's expected. So let's go to the next one. The next question here says, how have you been learning? Have you been learning with YouTube videos, or you've been learning by bootcamp? Just choose the one that is very relevant to you. You may have been doing all the 4, right? Well, maybe one stands out for you, or you've been learning with boot camps, or you've been doing physical classes. So what's your learning pattern? Okay. So I think YouTube video and Code Cloud is winning already. Any other response before we stop the slide? Any other? Okay, so paid platforms are taking the lead already. All right, thank you guys for participating. I just like this to be a starter for us to warm the whole room and also get insight on the people in participation and what they have been doing so far. Right. So from the bootcamp, from the learning pattern, we have more people who do videos and also paid platform like Code Cloud and the likes for their learning. So that's a good start. We will touch right on. So I just want to do a mini introduction of myself. I believe most of us are already familiar with me, especially those that are joining from the community. I am God's Time Chisom, and I'm a senior DevOps and SRE, currently with InterSwitch. And for me, I'm very keen about hands-on. So let's move faster, because this is like a 1-hour class, a 1-hour webinar, and then we're supposed to take questions within this 1 hour. So when you hear the word DevOps, there are majorly 3 things that should come to mind: the systems, the cloud, and pipelines. Honestly, to some organization, when you hear DevOps, they are just telling you about CI/CD. Some have rebranded it to release engineer or whatever engineer. However, DevOps on its own is a practice. It's not even the tool. These are just like pillars. These are things that you should have knowledge of before you can call yourself a DevOps engineer. So cloud on its own is another pathway that you may want to explore independently, whether you're doing DevOps or not, right? So when we talk about systems, I would like to bring it down to your computer. Say you want to call yourself a computer literate today. The first expectation from people is that you know how to operate a computer, right? So the same thing applies with DevOps. When you hear DevOps, the first expectation is that you should know how to handle a system. And what kind of system do DevOps use? We use mostly what I call servers. And these servers could be Linux server, could be Windows server, could even be a Mac server. I've seen some organization host their app on Mac, but that's very strange, right? So the very common system or servers that organization go with is Linux. So that is why you hear learn Linux first. Some people will tell you start with Linux. Some people will tell you don't do anything else except you know Linux. So in as much as Linux is very fundamental for a DevOps, because 100 out of 100 organization you will be opportune to work with, or 10 organization, 9 out of that 10 are using Linux, or their servers are Linux based, or they just have one or two things Linux. Even when they don't have anything Linux, some other tools that they are using, say the organization is purely on the cloud, they don't have anything to do with server, they're serverless and all of that. Somehow, some other tools that you would use to interact with that cloud have a Linux foundation. That is not to say that you must learn Linux first, right? We are not talking about what you should learn first here. We're talking about giving you understanding the pillars. For every house you're building, there is a pillar, there is a foundation. So the foundation is what I'm drawing background on first. You should have a background of systems. And this is not just about Linux. When I talk about system, it's not only Linux, it's about the operating system. So that is to say, don't look away from Windows. Again, that 1% out of the 10 that we've talked about, 10 organizations and 9 is on Linux. That 1% that is still on Windows, or that are still running maybe even Mac servers, they may be the 1% you will be interacting with, or you may be opportune to work with that 1%. And trust me, when a company is unique with their tools, they also pay very well, because they know that they are on a platform that is very hard to find, especially old organizations, robust organizations with over 1,000 employees. They must have some legacy applications, and this legacy app were not built with cloud in mind. So you may see them running it on something like Windows Server and the like. So learn the systems, learn operating system, understand what Windows Server looks like. It looks like your normal Windows PC. However, there are still very basic things you need to understand, how to even host on a Windows server, the IIS server, IIS web server. So on Windows, you host with IIS. On Linux, you can start bringing in things like Apache, Nginx, and the likes as a web server. But on Windows, you can still bring in Tomcat, which is a part of what's the name of this guys? Apache, right? However, the very common one that comes to mind when an organization is purely on Windows is the IIS, Internet something, forgive me, but then it's called IIS server. So it's just like you having your Nginx, if you know what Nginx is. But yeah, it's not about the server, it's about you understanding how to use it. Just like the way you pick up a new phone, say you've been using iPhone and someone gifts you an Android phone, you have to learn how to use Android. Or you'll be using Android and someone gifts you an iOS, an iPhone. You have to start on learning or trying to get yourself familiar. Can I find my camera files? You have to start learning how to use that. Or you've been using a Mac PC, or you've never used a computer before and someone just dashed you a laptop. You have to learn how to use it, how to type on the keyboard, how to find words, how to move your mouse. So these are just basic understanding of what you should see your systems are. And they go just beyond you understanding how to use these systems, right? It also goes to you understanding the core things within them, like the user account, the way you would open your PC and you sign into your account, or you give it to someone and the person signs in as a guest user. You have to understand permissions, file sharing, the way you would copy one file to another folder, Control C, Control V, all of those things exist within a server, because a server is also like your PC. It's just, there's no so much difference. It's just like your PC. However, it's that kind of PC that you may not have a physical access to. Most times you remote into it. You access it from another place, right? So there are quite a lot of things around operating systems that you would need to understand. Now, we are not yet talking about what to learn first, right? We're still talking about the pillars, you understanding the pillars of things within the DevOps, right? The next pillar I want to talk about is cloud. I cannot, out of the 10 that we're using as an example, out of that 10, 99.9 of that 10, meaning we are now at 0.00000. 99.9999 of that 10 organization have something to do with cloud. They may not fully have all the applications on the cloud, but they may have, maybe their DNS is on Route 53, or their database is on the cloud, or maybe one part of their architecture is on the cloud. So for some reason, or it could just be that they run all the application on the cloud. They must have something on the cloud. And if it's a newer organization like startups and the like, they may be fully on the cloud. So you have to understand the cloud as a pillar. You have to know what it is. What does cloud really mean? Either any of the cloud provider you choose to start with, I would advise you do AWS. If you have more time, do Azure, because these are the two basic cloud provider that you most likely meet within your career progress. And if you have more time, do GCP. One thing with learning any cloud provider is once you learn one and you're a master of it, by master, I mean you're able to understand how to navigate your way around them, you can easily pick up another cloud provider and be able to find your way around it. Trust me. If you learn Azure to the core, that you know how to do everything on Azure, you will not find it difficult to go to AWS or to go to GCP or even DigitalOcean or any of the cloud provider, because of that strong understanding you have. So don't do multi-cloud as a beginner. Don't jump from AWS to Azure, from Azure to this. Just focus on one. Most time, people make their choice based on availability of resource. Say you open an AWS account and they gave you $200 and or $100, and you're able to use that to learn. Or you open an Azure account, or you're having difficulty opening AWS account and you needed to move to another cloud. Anyone you find it easy to start with it, but be a master of it. So cloud is very necessary. And within the cloud, just see the cloud as another environment altogether. You have everything, virtually everything you would need is on the cloud, depending on the provider you're working with. If you're working with something like AWS, Azure, GCP, you have almost everything you will need. You have your network, your database, your storage, everything. You have a compute, like a server, everything, virtually everything you will need sits on the cloud. Now we have pipelines, which for a DevOps engineer, you can't bypass it. As an SRE, you can bypass it. As a cloud engineer, you may be able to bypass it. As a platform engineer, you can jump over it. But as a DevOps engineer, you cannot go bypass pipelines. And by pipelines, I mean CI/CD. So most DevOps engineer, even in some organization, when they tag you DevOps, just know that you are CI/CD like this. You hug CI/CD. So in some organization, you may never have to do any other thing but just CI/CD. So it depends on the organization. So if it's a pure DevOps role, because DevOps itself, by definition, is developer operation, meaning a developer has done something. And what does a developer do? They write software. they write code. A developer has done something. You are now combining that thing they do to operations, meaning you're moving their work, which is a software, to the site where it is being operated on and to become a usable item, right? You're most likely going to be doing deployments. That is all of what all of this big grammar is talking about. However, some organization, because they are maybe very new, startup and all of that, they don't even have CI/CD set up. They don't have the environment where your CI/CD will deploy. They don't have all of that. So somehow you become a platform engineer and a DevOps. Or they don't even have SRE. They cannot recruit so many teams to do so many different things. And they give you all those roles together as DevOps. However, you cannot bypass CI/CD. So after you have gained your foundation around systems, around cloud, next place you have to base your foundation is on pipelines. Understand how CI/CD works, understand how infrastructure as a code works, understand automations around DevOps operations. Let's move more faster. Time runs so fast. Can't believe it's already, where's my slide? Okay. So now let's start even sketching what our roadmap is going to look like, right? The way I structured this, I structured it in a way that you may not necessarily have to start with one. You can see the way I placed 2 on top, meaning if you start with 2, somehow you will still come back here. However, you can start with 2. Why I don't want to tell us to go and learn Linux, go and learn this, in as much as that roadmap exists, but I will want you to find a balance as you're learning, because most of them in clashes with one another. If you start up your learning with cloud, somehow you would have to do everything ClickOps. By ClickOps, I mean you're clicking to create a server, you're clicking to create this, you're clicking to do this. You will not have to run any command because you've not learned the CLI basics. So the basics for every DevOps, and why most people come into DevOps and feel like DevOps is coding, is because the basics is actually CLI. By CLI, I mean you doing something on a console. You're doing something on a terminal. You're doing your actual operation on a terminal. By terminal, if you don't know what terminal is, let me come down to a beginner level, because it looks like I'm talking about intermediate. So I'm trying to open command prompts. This is command prompts on my system. If you type CMD, if you're using a Windows computer, you type CMD, it's going to open you something like this. Before now, when we were using DOS, like there's no Windows, there's no graphic user environment for you to learn. If you want to copy a file from one part to another, you will do it on this black screen. You will do that copy and paste from here. If you want to open a file, you will do that opening a file from here. You will run some set of commands to open that file on your terminal. So this terminal here is command prompt, is the native for Windows. However, for Windows, we also have PowerShell, which is also more advanced to command prompts. If you're now going into an environment that is not Windows, maybe you're dealing with Linux environments, your system is Linux or your server is Linux, you will be using mostly Bash environments. Bash, mine is showing Git Bash because I got my Bash by installing Git. Git is also something we'll talk about, right? So you will be running your terminal on this. All of them look the same. They're all black screen, right? However, the type of command you run on them are different. The type of command you run on those guys are different. So say I want to clear my screen here, I will type CLS. Say I have typed so many things and I just want a clean screen, I'll type CLS and my screen is clear. If I'm doing it on Bash, I'll have to type it clear. So the command is different. However, they do almost the same thing. So if you're there are also other environments. Say you've gone cloud, you've learned your cloud, and you don't want to go to the console to start clicking to do everything. By the time you have become so strong with cloud, you will now say you're working with Azure Cloud, you will install Azure CLI on your computer so that when you open it, this guy will already connect you, is trying to connect me to Azure to authenticate. Once it authenticates to that Azure environment, every command you're running here, you want to create a server, you want to check your server, you want to do this, you're running it as a command. The same thing applies to AWS. So it means that you're working in a command line environment. That is what CLI means, command line interface. So everything you're doing it as command. So for me, I would say when you have understand the basics of operating system, that's the first pillar we talked about, which is the operating system. When you've understand the system, you then have to learn the CLI basics, know how to use common CLI like Git. Git is the easiest you can start with. You can start with Git, understand how Git works, understand how to use Git to even back up your works, all those things you're writing, you're learning, you back it up with Git. Understand how to use Linux to run some very basic command while you're still growing in your Linux knowledge. Then you can start going into phase 2, understanding the cloud, now going into scripting, using the cloud CLI itself to do some stuff. When you've done all of that, in fact, when you've done with these two guys, I would say you're already 50% a DevOps engineer. Then you can start learning about containers, and not just containers. You're learning containers alongside with CI/CD, alongside with the phase 3. The phase 3 is a lot more modern containers. You're learning how to build, how to deploy, and you're working with different tools in this place. Then when you have finished phase 3, you are like 70%. At this point, you can apply for a DevOps role as a DevOps engineer, not a junior. No, I don't think they still do junior now. I hardly see an application where they say junior DevOps. It's either you're applying for DevOps engineer, or you're applying for senior DevOps engineer, or they just put it out there as intern. But trust me, even those intern, if you apply for an internship role today in Nigeria with a 0 level experience, they will filter you out. So even when you apply for intern, you're putting out there that you can do this. You're most likely applying for a DevOps engineer role, however, with a smaller pay, with a chance to learn on the job, kind of. Okay, so by the time you're going to phase 4, you are a full DevOps engineer. Phase 4 is about GitOps. And what is GitOps? Having a single source of truth for all your operations. You're managing different things from your Git repository. Even the automations, everything is coming from your Git repository. And when people go to the environment, say you deploy the server from your Git repository, and someone goes to the cloud and modify that server, your GitOps is most likely effective if you're able to handle drifts. That context is more broader from this webinar, right? However, just know that when you have moved from phase 1 to 2, you're at 50% of this journey. And when you got into 3, you're at 70%. And when you have finalized with 4, you can call yourself even a senior DevOps engineer. But let's move on again. Now, where should beginners focus their efforts on? First off, I talked about the system. So you're focusing your efforts on learning the system administration. It is easy for someone who have a software background to become a DevOps engineer, someone who have a sysadmin background to become a DevOps engineer, someone who have an SRE background, in fact, you've already passed DevOps by being in SRE. Try and find other similar role. Mostly sysadmin, or you're learning from scratch. So you're going to understand how systems work, different systems, but then you're putting more focus on Linux. And don't wait until you are Linux experts, unless you're becoming a sysadmin. You don't have to get to 100% around this before you move to this. In fact, I would say when you know the basics of Linux, understand how Linux work, you can then move into Git and mono repos. When you have understand Git, version control, how to do Git from your terminal, not just the Git UI, you understand everything around Git, you can then move into containers and microservice and networking, which is part of cloud. I think I omitted that. Okay, it's here, but I omitted that. It's supposed to be here. Cloud and your networking comes in. So once you get that, so to me, this is the roadmap I'm actually going to give us today. Once you've done your Linux system understanding, you've done Git understanding, you don't need to even get to this 90%, 85%. Go into your cloud and networking. Learn them to at least a 50%. So if you do 50% of these three, by the time you're going into containers and microservice, you will see a part of all of this taking you back to understand more of this, taking you back to maybe you're now moving away from mono repo to modern to multi-repo. You're able to now start doing branches, pull requests, because you're no more working alone. You may be working with one or two persons, right? Then you can start doing your multi-cloud complex systems. So all of this will be a roadmap. However, there is a catch to learning DevOps, because I see a lot of people, when they struggle a lot with learning because of the pattern they are going with. Let me give us a backstory. When I started learning DevOps, I used to write software, like software engineer, all of that. Then I moved into cloud. I went to Tech Expert. I was in M365, which was more of Exchange Server, Microsoft 365 administration. We're not really doing pure cloud. So I started learning cloud myself using the platform. For those of us that joined early and you were able to do the pool, I was using all of these resources you guys mentioned, YouTube videos, paid platforms, all of those PDFs. I even had to read a book at some point, right? However, there was one funny thing I did that I kind of saw it as a help, as a guide. And what was that? I picked on to write a certification. Like you're still learning this thing. I think it's because I have access to voucher. So in the Tech Expert environment, you're working for Microsoft, so they give you access to voucher. I think you can get vouchers for example. I don't know how it was working then. Either one of their events, once you're able to read through their study series, learning, they have a learning platform, Microsoft Learn. So they usually open that thing every year or so. I just know that for some reason I always have vouchers to write those exams. So because those vouchers are there, I started aiming to write an exam. But one thing it did to me, I was not writing it to be certified. I was writing it to see if what I'm learning is entering, because I was learning on my own, right? Now, one thing I noticed that did to me was that I was now able to practicalize what I was learning. So it's not about watching the YouTube tutorial and trying to figure it out yourself. When I faced towards the stage of preparing for that exam, I failed. I will not tell you I passed on my first time. No, I failed. In fact, there was one I failed that I kept failing. But because I have voucher, I kept writing it. In fact, it was more like I'm writing free exams. I became customer in one of those centers because I prefer to go to physical center after online did shege to me, right? I started going to physical center. So one thing I noticed is that for each time I write that exam and fail, I would memorize one question. I'll come back and practicalize it and understand it. Then I'll go back again. I'll go and write the exam again. And to be honest with you, this was even Azure Fundamentals. It was not even the advanced ones, right? So one thing that did for me was it was able to help me practice. I started practicing. And it was when I started practicing that I started understanding it. All the while, I've been watching video tutorials, trying to do some, some of those video tutorials, like the ones I used to watch, are mostly project-based. I prefer to watch project-based tutorial, like we're working on a project, you see them start from doing this, they move to doing this. However, most times when you try to follow them, because those tutorials are like 2 years ago and you're watching it now, the version of things they are using may not be in line with what you're using. So there will be a lot of errors and I just get stuck and I'll just be like listening only. I'm not practicing because I'm stuck right here. You will see someone type a command on YouTube, you will pause it and type it on your own system. It will not work. It was very frustrating. So let's see what the actual roadmap is and how we can bypass this kind of frustration. In case you've also gone through series like this. Okay. So for me, after I've done this in a while, one thing that helped me was having a guide. And when I mean having a guide, in as much as things have moved fast enough now that AI can also be your guide today, right? That's why I'm bringing this, so that you also know that you have options. Aside the guide I'm going to mention here, you have the option of using AI as your guide. In fact, you can train your own AI accounts. Let me not even say build a model because you're still like learning, right? You can, that your AI account, be it ChatGPT or any AI you're using, train it before you even start, train it to understand that I'm learning this. I want it to be my mentor, my tutor. Train it to understand your background so that when you're asking it question, it is not telling you run this command. It is telling you detailed down what you need to do. I have to put that out because a lot of people, after events like this, you still go home not having clarity on what to do. So AI is out there and it can help you a lot to learn. However, I'm also projecting two options for us. One is having a group you belong to, a community. I would always say this in any way I go to speak or event. Communities helped me a lot. At that point where I was learning, that was when I joined She Code Africa. And a lot of boot camps happening there. I was able to join, I was able to learn. Now you now have a group of people who are in your category, who you can reach out to and say, hey, have you done that project? And they're like, okay, I tried it didn't work. Maybe we can look at it together. So you're forming not just a relationship with this person or group of persons, you're also forming I don't know, for lack of a better word, a community you can count on or an accountability partner or something. So work with actionable materials. And when I mean actionable materials, I mean project-driven materials. That is the actual roadmap you should follow. Whatever you're learning, if you're learning cloud, you're learning Linux, have actionable materials that tell you, okay, let's work on this project. This project is doing this. We're trying to do this. Put this here. So that even when you get stuck in that project, today, like I said, when I was learning, there was no AI. So I could not even run back to AI to say, hey, I'm working on this and I'm stuck. You would just keep Googling and Googling. Most time you can ask people if you have a community you can speak to, right? So work with actionable materials that gives you guideline from here to here, from here to here, and you're able to put your knowledge, it's able to give you a direction, right? And even with those materials, if you get stuck, you are now able to say, hey, AI or whatever tool you use, I'm working on this. You can even copy and paste the actual step you have gone, copy and paste the question you're working on, and explain to it where you're stuck, paste your errors. If you're using the paid version, my dear, you have a lot more you have very little to worry about, because it can contain a lot of, I think the word limit is, you can put in many pictures, screenshots, everything. Let it understand your workflow. Let it understand what you're doing and what you're stuck with. So time is running so fast. I really want us to take questions before we go. So actionable materials, and you're able to do what? Build a community. Build on projects with communities. So today, if you're not joining from our community, we have a community where you can join in, and if you're working on things, you can ask questions. And in the course of this program, I'm open to you opting in for subgroups within the community, like-minded subgroups. Most of the subgroups we have in Hands-On Academy today are based on tutorials like this, webinars, projects. If you're working on something and you need like-minded people to work with you, you can opt for that, and we create a subgroup, and people who are interested joins the subgroup, because most time the big group, which we call the general, is group of people that have different things in mind. What is bothering you may not be what is bothering them, right? But then those subgroups help us to do what? To go, they are like-minded. Like when we worked on the Cloud Native project, we created the Cloud Native subgroup. Everybody in that group was working on that project alongside. So they are focused on that. They understand, when you ask questions, they understand where you're coming from. Unlike the general group, whereas when you ask questions, they are most likely trying to catch up with you or trying to get you to explain some things before they can understand where you are at the moment. Okay, so let's go next. So yeah, I already talked about this. So we have a collaborative community where you can join in, and you're able to find peer group that would help you solve problems. And yeah, I'm also going to, let's take question before let me finish up the slide. So I've talked about the peer group, mentorships, and all of that. You can always find a community that would help you. And why is this better than you learning solo? Excuse me. So when you're learning solo, you're on your own. You find, however, learning solo can now be easier because you can find AI as your partner. Why I'm referencing more on AI is because people have time constraints, knowledge constraints. However, AI may have a knowledge constraint, right? But then AI is always there. There is no time constraint. You can reach out to someone in the community and they say, hey, okay, let me check back with you around 12. And by 12, you may have slept off, or the person may even forget. So there's that time constraint with humans, right? However, your AI is always there to answer you, though there is token constraints. When you finish your token, you go and sleep. All right. But yeah, at least you have a human guide in community. You're able to troubleshoot. There are groups you can join. Aside the one I'm even introducing you to, there are a lot of groups. You should be open to joining groups. I know some people don't like so much groups on their WhatsApp, but maybe in this course of learning, you should be open to joining groups. Join any group you see that is going to help you. Join. Even when you don't know what they're talking about, maybe somehow, someday, they're going to be of help to you. But as much as possible in this, your early stage of growing, join as many groups as you can and learn from it. Okay, so before we start taking questions, I also have a DevOps roadmap. It's a project-based PDF. It has a lot of projects. And for those that will be joining, that will be getting this within this project, within this week, I'm going to put them in a separate WhatsApp group in the community so that everybody in that group will know that we are here to work on the project on that roadmap. So this is like optional for people. If you want to get it, you can get it and work on that project together in a WhatsApp group. So once you get it, I'll send you an email and you join that WhatsApp group. So we know that everybody here is working on this project. And when you have concerns around it, you are able to pick it up. Okay, so now I want to take questions. Time is fast, but then I would borrow 10 more minutes for questions. So let's have your questions. Are there questions, concerns you want us to address? Yes, please go on. Kudus, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yeah. Yes, you did. I'm currently working in IT support. So
Okay.
I'm looking to transition to cloud engineering basically. So I've been like consuming a lot of materials, but what I understand is that networking is very key. Like you need to at least know basic networking before you can
Okay.
understand some concepts. So I'm currently using there's this Professor Messa's video to learn basic networking. So someone said I should use a packet tracer. I should use Cisco packet tracer. That will give you more like deep concept of networking and all of that. But I'm currently using that. So I don't know. So now it's been like almost since like beginning of this year that I've been on it. And you know the video is very long, about 80 set of video. So I just felt like can't I just keep to the important parts that I need instead of consuming the entire video? So so that's the first. So my question now is that, like, how do you know I know you've highlighted all the things that we need to learn, but then there are sometimes that you'll be stuck in a loop of you'll be stuck in one loop because you feel like you've not understand it well and you need to continue learning it instead of you to move on to the next thing that you need to learn. So when do you know that, okay, this thing this we have learned it to is enough, I need to go to the next one? And yeah.
Okay, let me give you a backstory. When I started learning Kubernetes, it was looking like physics to me. So those days in school, physics used to be very abstract. They will tell you a car drives 50 kilometers per second in the air. I'm like, did you guys measure the airplane as it was flying this velocity? Like everything was sounding like very abstract to me. So the same thing happened to me when I was learning Kubernetes. I would watch videos. I was using Code Cloud. Everything, I heard the Code Cloud guy, Mushamba or something, was the best tutor of Kubernetes so far on earth. So I started with his video. Honestly, I don't understand anything he was saying. I'm like, how is this guy the best tutor for Kubernetes? I don't understand anything. I had to go back I went to this one. There's one lady, something with tech with someone, a lady like that. I had to go back to her own video. Hers was a bit cool for me. However, I got stuck, like you were saying. Do you know when all of this starts sinking? When I entered a role that has to do with Kubernetes, and I entered the role as an engineer who understands, tech word with Nana, thank you. So I entered the role as an engineer who understands Kubernetes. However, my understanding of Kubernetes is still very abstract. But when I started doing that work, it was now like, when I now see those things, I'm not like, oh, this is what these people are talking about. Oh, so what I'm saying in essence is possibly that thing you're watching and trying to do, you've not really done it in a way that you're able to understand it. You've not really done practicals around it. Let me also address what happened when I was learning networking. The first time I learned networking, it was when I did a Microsoft internship with Tech Experts, but then it was sponsored by Microsoft. The guy that was teaching us networking, I've never seen someone teach networking like him. He was so good. He was breaking it down in pieces, all the network traces, how you can combine IP address, this and that. But then I was offline. My brain was offline with what he was doing. When did all of this start making sense? It started making sense to me when I went to learn cloud. I could now visualize, maybe because I'm more of a virtual person. I like to see what you're showing me. Don't tell me something abstract. Maybe draw it in picture, put it, I don't know, because the guy was actually drawing. But then I started understanding networking when I started learning cloud. Those days he was teaching networking. He was not teaching us cloud. He was teaching us Microsoft packages, Microsoft environments, and he brought in the networking part and went deep into networking. It was sounding abstract to me until I started learning cloud. Then I could now see how all of those things he was teaching me was actually making sense. I could now use it in live projects. So first off, maybe your learning pattern doesn't match with the way the guy is teaching. That is my case with the Kubernetes tutor. The way he was teaching was not working for me. So most time it could be the person teaching you is not working the way you understand things. We all have different way we assimilate stuffs. Some people assimilate when you're able to draw it for them. You will tell them A is for apple. They will not understand it until you draw that apple, and they can now relate that apple to the apple that they've eaten. Oh, this is the apple. Some people understand by different ways. So maybe his way of teaching is not aligning with yours, or you need to do something very practical to get full understanding of what he's saying. And most times, which I would say have also worked for me, most times just play it. Keep playing the video, keep watching it. Somehow, when you have watched everything, maybe you want to go over it again. Because if you say you're stuck here, you don't want to move forward.
I think
yeah, you are saying something.
Yeah, so I think is the latter part of what you just said, that I need to engage in the actual practical, like using it,
Exactly.
applying it.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't understand. It's not that I'm clueless completely about. I mean, it is reasonable, but then you just it just feels like okay, I understand this thing. So how do I apply it? How do you apply it in real world? Like how do you apply it exactly? So I think the problem I have is using it like application going in real this thing. So what I did was, yes, I tried to understand the basic networking infrastructure at the company. So maybe that can help you understand the virtual one. So that's what I'm trying to do now. So maybe if I can familiarize myself with networking infrastructure, the physical infrastructure, then it might help my my course.
Yeah, since you have access to the physical one, it would also help you. Also, another thing I would like to add is that thing you understand, you can put it on an AI tool and tell it to give you a project you can work on, even if it's using the virtual one. Tell it to give you a project that you have this understanding of this, how network works. Explain everything you feel you understand to AI. Tell it to give you practical projects you can work on with this networking, with these things you've learned around networking. It should give you a practical project to work on it. And even possible, most cases, it will even give you the project and steps to that project, steps to achieve that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other question? Any other question? Anyone? I thought we'll have a lot of questions though. All right, please go on, Abubakar.
Good evening. Sorry, I joined late. Actually, I was on a long journey, so I could not join at the appropriate time. So I
Yeah, it's
joined
fine.
some minutes ago. Okay, no problem. So I saw something on the screen. Uh, Immediate access to the premium PDF labs and the WhatsApp sandbox codes that we should purchase it. Please, uh, in a nutshell, can you just give a brief summary, maybe in 30 seconds or one or a minute of what that entails, please?
Okay, so we already finished a rundown on the slide, and what this is about is it's a PDF guide that would give you step-to-step projects on each of those networking tools that we talked about. We've talked about the roadmap you want to take to have a basic understanding of DevOps. So in the PDF, each of them have like a project you work on within that space. So if let's say you're learning Linux, it will give you a project on Linux that you work on. And I said I was going to keep everybody who purchases it in a WhatsApp group so that as you're working on it, you're able to interact with others, ask questions, and get to understand the project you're working on. So these are like beginner friendly to help you walk through and understand basic DevOps approaches or basic DevOps tools that you need to learn to grow.
All right, all right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. That's the link, right? Seller.com/DevOps
Yes.
Cloud DevOps. All right. Thank you so much
Yes.
for the explanation.
Any other questions? For those that are just joining, I don't know, you may not have questions because you didn't follow us all through. But then questions around, are there things you're working on? Are there challenges you're having? Let's even see how best we can help at this point. What are you learning? What have you started your journey at all? What does it look like for you? Those are questions I'm expecting. I was expecting us to have a lot of questions.
Good evening. I have a question.
All right.
Okay, so the thing is that I'm currently learning AWS Cloud, and I'm
Okay.
planning to take the Solutions Architect exam. But I know that I'm not going fully in the line of the Solutions Architect. That DevOps is really what interests me. But I mean, somehow I just jumped into AWS Cloud, and I'm planning to write the exam, but I don't know. Because of the videos that I've been consuming here, it is
Wait,
it is voluminous.
did
And I'm
you buy the exam yourself or you got a voucher?
okay, the first one, I got the exam myself, the practitioner exam. I already did that before. So I was thinking, okay, let me go to the next one. Yeah. The first one I got the exam myself and I passed. So and if you pass, they'll give you a slash there's a slot,
Yeah,
like there's a
discounts.
discount, yes. So I'm scared. I've not even covered the video that I'm watching. And I want to take it off my pocket list to write the exam. I know that it is really not sane to do that, but then I just need advice now.
When does it expire?
I've not bought
When
the
does it
voucher at all.
expire?
I've not bought it. Because I know
Oh,
that I'm not yet fully ready. So I don't know if I should cancel out that idea, and because the course is too much. I've just been watching video and it's really exhausting.
okay. First off, I don't want you to waste that money, right? If what you're doing, so unless I was doing it because I have voucher. Those money are big money. I know AWS is like 150. If you're writing the associate, it's big money. So don't waste that money. If what you're looking for is to understand it, cloud is still part of the roadmap. Somehow you still have to understand cloud while learning DevOps, right? Since DevOps is your main goal. Cloud is still in the pipeline, but then if you've not paid for that exam, don't waste that money yet. Unless you've paid and then you have limited time, I'll just say, okay, write it just to have the experience. And most likely you may not pass. From the way you sound, you're not ready for that exam. So what I would advise is try to learn the very basics, understand what you're going into. Cloud practitioner, I think cloud practitioner is more easier. There are also other ways to pass the exam without knowing it too, but then I will not give you a bad advice because it's a bad advice, right? But then I want you to have the understanding, understand what it's all about, understand the cloud. If you don't have an account, maybe get an account, but be careful with cost. Get an account. All of those things you're seeing on the video, that was so much, I believe possibly because you're waiting to write an exam, you just want them to give you the exam question. So the video will not enter until you've removed that pressure from the exam out of your way. You will not be able to settle down, watch the video, practice what you're watching, have the very good understanding of what you're learning. In that way, you can now grow from there. When you now want to write the exam, you're comfortable. Even if you write it when you're comfortable and fail, you appreciate it more than writing it now and failing. It will be like a waste of money, honestly. So I wouldn't say you should jump into the exam unless there's a pending need. Maybe you want it for a job or something. But if there is no pressure, there's no need. But in a case where there is pressure, actually, there are dumps. But that's the bad advice I said I will not give you. There are dumps. Dumps will just give you the exam question, you cram it, you go there and give them back, and you pass, and you have your certificate. But then the knowledge is not there. And that's where you see someone with 5 certification and they cannot really speak about it in an interview or something. So here is good advice, here is bad advice. Like, pick one. Don't mind me.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Any other person? I think I saw a chat. How do I get to the chats? Okay. Yeah,
Sorry,
please ask.
it's my first time joining. How do I get to the
Okay.
WhatsApp group?
Okay, so we have a WhatsApp community. Let me get the link. I'll share it on this chat for those new WhatsApp. Okay, while I'm waiting together, any other person? Can
Please, I have another question. Can I
Yeah,
go
please
on
go
my
on.
question?
Yes.
Okay. Please, what's the difference between a cloud engineer and a DevOps engineer?
Okay, 1 minute. Let me get the link for this. Copy link. Okay, I'm dropping the link on the chat for the person that said she's not on the community. Okay, so the difference between DevOps and cloud engineer. So if you look through the roadmap.
In addition, please, sorry for cutting you, please. I want to ask a question so that I can answer it as a whole. I'm so sorry for cutting you. Sorry, what is, at times you will see cloud engineering, DevOps engineering. At times you will see site reliability engineering. At times you will see ML ops. At times you will see LLM ops. And if you look at their job description, they are most times the same. What's the difference between them? And at times you are still going to see platform engineering. Thank you. Sorry for cutting you.
All right, I get. Okay, I'm trying to bring up my paint board. You can see my paint, right? So let me do a sketch. This is DevOps. Now, today, in the world we live today, you see all those things you just mentioned: DevOps, cloud, sorry, cloud platform, SRE, that's site reliability engineer. Which other one? MLOps. All of these guys, they have a link. In fact, I would say they all came out from DevOps, right? They all came out from DevOps somehow. You will find an organization who will put all these job roles together and say they are looking for a DevOps engineer. Some will pick 1, 2, 3 and say they're looking for a DevOps engineer. Some will pick SRE DevOps platform and put it inside one job role and call it DevOps engineer. That's why I'm like, most cases, DevOps DevOps role will be determined by the organization you join. But from my understanding, being that I've worked in an organization that we have DevOps, we have platform, we have SRE, I've seen MLOps, I've seen a cloud engineer. I can differentiate based on what I understand. So DevOps, the real work of a DevOps is to ensure that for each time the developer is shipping in new changes, they are able to push this change to an environment. Say this is Oga Dev, software engineer. You're working with someone called a DevOps, right? And this DevOps, his role is, as you're releasing your code, you're making changes to a code base. This guy is taking this code base to an environment where your customer is able to access it, right? How he does all of this is his business. But the problem now is that some organization, after this code has been deployed here, because this guy, DevOps, is the one that deployed this thing, they want DevOps to know what is happening here. If there's a downtime on this row, on this application, they will call DevOps because, Organa, you deploy this thing. Come and find what the problem is. Is it that your server is maxed out? Do we need to scale out? What is happening? Why are you not notified when this thing went down? At this point, this man is doing the whole thing. Say he even joined when the organization was still starting. There is no DevOps, there is nothing, no server, nothing. He would have to set up this server. He would have to set up the CI/CD pipeline that he will use to deploy. He will have to set up, if they are doing Kubernetes, he will set up the Kubernetes cluster, the load balancer, everything he would need to make this application go live, he will have to set it up himself. But the actual setup and infrastructure thing is for a platform engineer. It is platform who is supposed to set up this infrastructure, monitor the infrastructure. If, say for instance, this application is down, and what is making this application to go down is not that the code is bad, it's because this server is overworked and the server is down. We are actually expecting an SRE to be able to know what is going on this server, not a DevOps. But in a case where an organization cannot employ a platform person, a DevOps person, it becomes the work of a DevOps. So that's why most times what you see in job description is muffled up. Depending on what they want, they just put it together and call it one name. So the platform guy, when you have built up Kubernetes cluster, you've set up their load balancer, you've done all of that, your work does not end there. You maintain your platform. You ensure that the problem why this application is down is not because my load balancer is faulty or something on the platform side of things. In fact, if in an organization that is loaded, or will I say structured, if there's a problem, platform, SRE, DevOps will be here to find out the problem. And when they eventually say the SRE, which is the first line, gets to find out, oh, this thing is because the DB is down. If the organization have a DBA, they will go to the DBA, picks it up from there. Everybody go and sleep. DBA will continue troubleshooting to find out why the DB is down. But in a case where there is no DBA, the platform person who set up this DB would have to look at it. Is it a platform thing? Why is our DB down? If it doesn't have to do with your pipeline, it doesn't have to do with the software. If it has to do with the software, you, the DevOps, you have find out that it's a software problem. You move it to the software engineer. If it has to do with the platform, this is your task. If it has to do with infrastructure on prod, auto-scaling infrastructure on prod, troubleshooting the issue, most cases the SRE comes in. And when SRE has even detected the issue and it's beyond them, if it's a pure platform issue, they move it back to the platform engineer. But in a case where the organization cannot afford all of this workload, DevOps will carry the workload on its head. That is where you see DevOps being overloaded. And this MLOps guy is just a machine learning engineer who have DevOps knowledge. You have learned machine learning to the core. You are not a software engineer that is building model. You're just a DevOps engineer that understands how this model is built up. So you're an MLOps. Why the software engineer who writes this model, architects the model, is you're working hand in hand, because the deployment process for machine learning models are slightly different from normal softwares. So that's where MLOps comes in. You're just an upgraded DevOps. It's just like saying DevSecOps. There's also DevSecOps engineer. That guy is just a DevOps engineer who understands the security part of things more than everybody else. So everything, all of this, I just feel they are spanning out from DevOps, or they are branches of DevOps. DevOps feels overloaded and like, guy, you can be called this name, make I rest. So they all came out somehow from DevOps. I don't know if I was able to answer you. Okay, some more DevOps and fee break. Yeah, it depends on the organization, actually. It depends on the organization. Currently, where I work, we have platform, we have DevOps, we have SRE. We don't have, which one don't we have? Even our SRE are splitted. We have SRE for different things. So everybody is more of very relaxed. In a case where you don't have SRE for a lot of things, I think places like Money Point, if you're an SRE in Money Point, you will do DB, you will do their switching services, you will do their software. So you are SRE for everything. But in organization like InterSwitch, we have SRE for DB, we have SREs that are focused on switch, we have SRE that are focused on the application, we have SREs that focus on monitoring. So you're more of relaxed. However, if SRE is scrapped out, that workload will go back to DevOps, because they're the one that deployed the app. So because that knowledge gap will be there, you can't give it to any other person but the person that put it there. You're the one that brought the app to production, so you're the best guy to know what is happening on production. Okay, any other question before we run? We are close to 8:30. Any other person?
Thank you so much for your time. You've done enough.
All right. Okay, yeah, please go on.
This class that we're having, is it going to be every Saturday? Or
No.
you give us projects, then what's the structure, please? Thank you.
So today is just a webinar, right? It's just an event. It's a one-off event. However, on the group, on hands-on group, there are going to be different events coming up, which you can participate if it's in line with what you're learning. Then the one I talked about putting us in the WhatsApp group is for those that want to work on this roadmap. If you get the content, I'll put in a WhatsApp group. So that one is not also a class. It's just going to be a place where you can easily find help when you get stuck with the project. So if say you're working on Linux and you're not able to navigate, you always have people in that group that are doing the same thing, because people in the general group are not doing what you're doing. They don't even know what you're doing. So when you ask questions, most times you may not get an answer directly, because they are not, unless you have context around what it is. But in this WhatsApp group, everybody there are doing the same thing, so they're able to follow through, and I'll also be there to give guideline if you get stopped. But the general group will be having other events and other things going on. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions before we go? Okay. In the absence of none, thank you for joining. Would see you again in our next event. And yeah, thank you for joining. Bye, everyone.